I would love to get your input on OnlyFans.
I find it kind of sad.
Okay.
Okay, first and foremost, because I was a broken young girl and I thought I basically had to have sex to be loved. A lot of girls are not guided properly. And for some reason they believe in their heart that that's just, it's easy money. Who cares? Like, sex sells. Like, I mean, I had that mentality.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode, season 2 of the Mugshot Podcast. Thank you for joining us, viewers and listeners. Before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe button so we can go ahead, keep you informed, and also it really helps the channel. Today we're here with Abbey Martinez. She's a good friend of mine. She's also a business owner, and let me make sure I got this right. So you have 2 first place titles for weightlifting in Colorado. Did I get that right?
Yes, for powerlifting.
For powerlifting.
Yes, I won my first competition, so I got 2 first place. So it was both, and you sign up for different classes. So like, my weight class for being above 40.
Okay.
I won that one, and then just my overall weight class.
That is badass.
Yeah.
So in addition to you doing powerlifting, I mean, you also own a business, Abbey's Road, and a sub business to that is Beauty Designs by Abs. That's your hair.
That's my long term. Like, I've had that, and I've changed the name a couple of times, but I've been doing hair for 20 years.
Okay.
Professionally, because I've actually been doing hair since I was like a teenager for my friends in the kitchen and stuff, but
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, professionally, that's been like my personal business. And then I opened Industrial Salon and Suites back in 2019. And then that shifted when I went through my divorce and COVID and everything.
Yeah.
I kept it open, but I was by myself. I didn't have anybody. So it was like I was struggling really bad, but I made it through. I started expanding. I now have 3 different basically buildings where I have total number is 12 suites and then some open spaces.
Yeah.
And then opening something else as well.
Oh, nice.
That is not complete yet. So I'll be able to reveal that another time, but
that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to hearing about it.
Yeah.
So did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? I mean, it seems like it's kind of in your blood a little bit.
It is. My dad has been an entrepreneur my whole entire life. He's done a bunch of different businesses. So I guess I was a teenage mom. I was 15 when I had my first. And so that kind of, I had to start working really early. And I didn't like working for people. I've always been very strong-willed and like had my own ideas on stuff.
Sure.
So, I was able to start doing hair in my kitchen at a young age. And then I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school and get my license and do this the right way, and worked 3 jobs to get me through school. And
holy crap.
Yeah, it's been a long road. And, it's like being a small business owner, entrepreneur, it's not for the weak, I guess you could say. It takes a lot. Some days you wonder what the heck you're doing. Like, why?
Yeah.
And it's you have to always remember why, and just remember there's a lot of great things. There's a lot of freedoms to being a business owner and running your own stuff, and you can really, sky's the limit. You can do whatever. And my brain, I have ADD. I've had it my whole life,
Sure.
So it's constantly go. So I'm always thinking of different things. So there's never a dull moment in my head.
Nice.
But it gets exhausting when you're constantly like, well, if I had $1 million, I could expand a lot quicker and do a lot more, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely takes that perseverance, like we were talking about offline. I don't know. I've only had a taste of that while doing the content creation side, but I think that I've experienced some of that where it's like you have that idea and you're like, man, this is going to take off. Everything's going to be great. And then reality kind of hits you
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that easy. It never is. Like you really have to get in the trenches and you got to start, making the contacts and doing the things. And so that's awesome that you've kept with it. You seem I mean, you have a successful business. It's working out for you. So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So where does powerlifting fit in? Was that also something that you wanted to
I've
do?
always done fitness, on and off. It's something that I loved when I was in school. I was very into sports, all sports. I was very athletic growing up. Once I had my son at 15, obviously, like my life shifted a lot. And then when I hit like my early 20s again, I started back into the gym and everything. And then in 2015, I got real serious with it. And so
Yep.
I've,
What caused you to get real serious with it?
well, this is actually really interesting, but I had breast implants
Oh, okay.
and they were making me really, really sick. Well, I did not know that.
Really?
Yeah. And so 11 years I had them, and I just went through a lot of problems, a lot. And
Okay.
I was a military wife at the time. Military doctors wanted to just keep giving me medicine, and I'm sure anybody military understands what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to advocate and say, like I don't want medication anymore. And so it started this long journey of like deep diving into why am I so sick all the time?
Sure.
Fitness and clean eating and really dialing all of that in. I knew would fix a lot of problems because the food that we eat, everything we come in contact with now, lotion, just our daily routine of life, the water we drink, it's full of chemicals and just yuck. Everything's genetically modified and stuff. So
Yeah.
I knew I needed to start kind of like root of everything. And I just got really obsessed with the fitness journey again. I did make myself a lot better for 2 years, but the minute I started eating normal
Mhm.
again, I started not feeling well. And then, fast forward to last year, I had the surgery to remove everything and I feel like human again. It's completely different. I wanted to power lift 2024, but I couldn't. Like I was just so sick.
Sure.
I couldn't even work out anymore. So once I started getting better after my surgery, I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like, it takes a lot of discipline. I think this is what I want right now in my life, kind of revamp everything for myself. And
Yeah.
I started that at the end of May, and it's my life next to parenting and God and my business. So
That's
that
awesome.
just keeps me disciplined.
So, if I can ask, I mean, so what is the issue with the implants themselves? What is it that made you so sick with them?
So a lot of people don't realize this, and like I was one of those people. I was very skeptical and talked a lot of crap, and was like, oh, it's whatever. Like it's just people are not eating good and taking care of themselves.
Sure.
Because if you're working out every day and sweating, 6-7 days a week, you're not, and you're eating really clean, then you're gonna fight a lot of things. But that's not ideal. So I was very skeptical, and I was like, it's not real. But it is it will affect everybody. It just sometimes it's not as extreme in each person. But it's a bag of toxins. The shell is toxins. So whether it's
Oh, the shell itself.
the shell itself, so whether it's saline, which is everybody's like, oh, it's just if it ruptures, it's
tears.
fine. Well, no, because once that bag goes inside of
Mhm.
your body will begin to break it down very slowly and it will release those toxins. Your body makes a it's called a capsule of scar tissue to protect you from the actual implant itself. And mine turned into like almost rocks
Oh, no way.
because they were just so bad. And it was breaking down a lot. I used my arms for my job doing hair, weightlifting, so I'm constantly moving my pectoral muscles and using my upper body, so it was contracting a lot more, and so it caused more scar tissue. And I mean, I could go real into detail, but it was bad. They cut me open. They found like cysts
Mhm.
throughout
Oh,
my
wow.
tissue. Um, there was a lot of problems though. And my doctor said, like people just have to understand that if you're going to put this in your body, it comes with a risk. And if we are all having surgeries thinking this is what I want, it sometimes we have identity crisis so bad we think we have to change our bodies to be acceptable.
Sure.
It's worth it. You don't think about the risk of health problems that it brings. And there have been plenty
Great
of
point.
people die from it. So
Really?
yeah, it's scary.
So was it one of the doctors that was diagnosing you that kind of tipped you off that it could be that right there? Or?
No, I like to research everything.
Oh,
I'm one of those people where I'm like, if I know my body pretty well. So I was like, oh, I'm curious. So I started really looking into it, looking at other stories. I want people that are experienced. I want to hear from people that are experienced. So I would always look at stuff like that. And doctors actually fought me a lot.
really?
Yes. I even was told, you're not going to like your body, just replace the implant. And I was like, I don't want to. Like, my relationship with God is very, like, I would say audible. It's very spiritual, but I feel like he speaks to me pretty strongly. And I kept hearing that I needed to remove them from my body. Finally found a doctor that listened to me. She had me do the last year, through 2024. I had like brain scans, chest, abdomen, everything to try to figure stuff out because I was having so many issues.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I think you're right. I think it is your implants. And even the doctor that put them in and removed them was not convinced until she removed them and she found what she found.
No kidding.
Yeah. So.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
man, what a journey. I mean, I'm glad you found it. It sounds like many people probably go around sick all the time. They don't realize what's causing it.
Yeah. I mean, and it can be like constant sinus infections, tooth infections. And you think, maybe it's just something that's in my diet, or, maybe I've grown allergies to something. You get autoimmune diseases. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. The thing is diagnoses they're not root cause.
Sure.
So there's a name for everything, right? But why? Why do we have all the problems we have? There's a root cause to everything. So I'm just obsessed with trying to find root causes for stuff so I can beat things. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it. And I knew, like, once everything was removed and she found what she found, I was like, I listened, and thank God I listened, because you can look at pictures of me from a year ago, because it's been a year since September. When I had my surgery, and people see me now and they're like, you look completely different. Like, you glow, and I feel good. I can, I feel healthy.
Yeah.
So it's wild.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, that's quite the transition. But I'm glad you're better for it. Here you are, you've moved past it. And I guess that brings up another question that I wanted to talk to you about. And you know what? Now's a great jumping off point. Obviously, you were talking about altering your body and how it can have long-lasting consequences. At the same time, I know we've talked offline before, but something that's big right now are people that are transitioning from one male to, or one
gender,
exactly, one sex to the other, male to female. That being said, it seems to be a real division between people. You have the ones that are like, Charlie Kirk is a great example. He's like, I think you need to have someone talk to you and help you work through what's going on mentally before you ever do anything physically. Because once you do it physically, there's no guarantee that you can come back from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I agree with that. Again, I've researched and done a lot of stuff in regards to that kind of thing as well. The thing is like the division that there is with the transgender, I guess the norms that are starting to be, I guess we can call it, right? The social norms of like, hey, it's okay to, be whatever you want to be. And I mean, if people are that intrigued with science and depend on science for all these different things, we need to really look at science.
Sure.
And remember that. But we're human beings. We are made up of mind, body, soul. It's I myself, growing up, I had a very, very crazy upbringing. I was major tomboy. I stole clothes from all my brothers, my male cousin. I wanted to be a boy. I would dress like a boy. I'd go get crazy and play football. And I loved jumping my bike off of walls and doing crazy stuff, but
Yeah.
um, I I always wanted to be with the guys. And I would have moments where, I would want to be girly, but not very many. And, as I've gotten older and, I've always had a very diverse circle of people. I do have a lot of people in my life that, are part of the LGBTQ community. I've had a lot of great organic conversations. And along with the things that I've basically, I guess, investigated or looked into, researched myself, just so I understand everything
Mhm.
as much as I possibly can, right? Because
Yeah.
people can say whatever they want to say, but again, root, we got to get to the root, right? Um, a lot of it, unfortunately, starts with like we all go through identity changes. It is part of the psychology of the brain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we all took a psychology course, we would learn that, we would understand that. um and then as kids are going through this identity time in their life in their teenage years, then it can start nowadays. It can start at like 8 years old when puberty starts to set in and those hormones start to get released. It can start younger and younger now. So you start seeing a lot more problems with the identity crisis happening. And as parents, I don't feel, and just from what I've looked at on my own, I don't feel that we really honestly support our children the way we were supposed to support our children from the get go, like
Sure.
years ago. We have kids to raise them, but we also have to be able to understand things before we just go tell our kids to just go do it, right?
Point. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not going to tell my kids to just go do all these things that I've experienced in my adult life. Um, I'm going to learn from the things that I've been through, and hopefully I can teach my kids not to do the things I've done because I want them to be better than me,
Yeah.
right? But we all learn from experience. That's how it should be. And then we teach from experience. And if we're sitting there telling our kids, oh, well, you feel like you're this or that, whatever it is, because they feel all kinds of stuff. But you, instead of guiding them and instead of saying, hey, let's talk about this,
Mhm.
let's really understand what your body's going through. Let's look at, what are the emotional things that you've been through in your life. Maybe there's been some trauma that your kids have been through or that you've all been through together. It's important to have that open dialogue with your children to discuss these things because it's going to help them find who they are and who they were created to be,
Yeah.
not what society is telling them to be. They can go to school and be told a number of things, right?
Mhm.
But it's our job to guide our children. And when they're in a major identity crisis because maybe their mom was a terrible, terrible mother, and so they identified being a female with the trauma,
Mm.
they're going to gravitate towards being a male
Sure.
more. Because that's what they feel safer with, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. Um, so like if there's a male in their life and they can't trust the male species, basically, they're going to gravitate towards that female side. So there's a lot of psychological stuff that goes into it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think what's interesting that I've always thought, I mean, when I was a cop, we had numerous contacts with people that were trans. In fact, my earliest contact was in the training academy when our agency was like, look, we're going to have people from different backgrounds. They're going to come in and talk to you guys and let you know their expectation for policing when it comes to members of their community. And so we had a person come in who identified themselves as a she, but used to work for the city as a planner for the streets department. But that being said, so it was fairly regular. And in 2012, I mean, it's not, we didn't even I think, as society, really have any of these discussions until post 2020. What I always found fascinating over the last 5 years is how it almost seems like I won't say the government, I won't just classify everyone in Hollywood, but there's just this strong push towards people being trans. The problem, I don't care what anyone does
Mm.
personally. If it doesn't affect me, man, go be happy. This is America.
Right.
What I do take issue with are the trans people that I've talked to. There's been times where I've had talks with them. I'm like, help me understand, because I don't understand this, and it sounds as though maybe you're still trying to figure it out yourself.
Mhm.
But I would ask them, where did this stem from? And what I have been told through my experience and my context, sexual trauma,
Mhm.
right? Sexual trauma is where a lot of these kids, if they are around it or they're the victims of it, a lot of times that trauma will start to come forward, kind of like you're talking about.
Mhm.
And then they end up maybe they want to become trans or they want to become gay or whatever it happens to be. But so I guess the issue that I take is the fact that a lot of members of society are trying to push kids in that direction when in reality, first of all, they don't necessarily need to be pushed in that. And I don't think they should be. But also there's like this really horrible element that makes people feel that way. And it's never talked about. It's never discussed, like on Netflix recently, if you heard about some of those shows that have come out that are convincing kids, that it's okay to be trans and stuff. Why aren't we having any of those conversations, about, hey, if you're getting hurt by your uncle, go and report it or something? Like, I think that's more important than.
Well, but if you think about it, like politically, like I mean, since 2020, I think just the world, not just America, the world, like it's just so um it's very political,
Mm,
like more than it's ever been, and it's not healthy. Like anything extreme is bad.
yeah.
So anything extreme left, anything extreme right, anything extreme Christian, anything extreme group, anything, it's bad. And that's what we're being faced with. And I don't like it because I feel like politically speaking, I'm not a very political person.
Sure.
I don't say I'm left, right, in between. I mean, if I vote, I'm voting for a policy,
I like that. Yeah.
Um,
You mean kind of as it should be.
right. Right. And I don't really like to talk about it a whole lot because I feel like it's a very personal decision. I don't think it's something that needs to be pushed one way or another. But what's very sad is we have these different communities and we have people in power and running for president that like to exploit, and they want to exploit groups of people where there is a lot of weakness and a lot of weakness in mental or the health of an individual. And it's heartbreaking because they say, oh, we care about this group of people so much, and in reality, if you did care about them so much, why are you putting this spotlight on them to push and exploit different things that you're really not even being clear on? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
you're taking labels, and we're using labels, but you're not actually talking about what these people go through.
Mhm.
And these people are human beings just like the rest of us.
Sure.
So to just put so much spotlight just on certain communities it's just not fair. But it's also creating a lot of problems in our schools and our homes, and parents are feeling pressure. But why would we all not be feeling the pressure? Why would there not be confusion? Because that's exactly what they want. They want us all confused. And, I really think that what we're missing is, how often do you hear about, family resiliency and the psychology of parenting and understanding what it means to parent? I mean,
Great point.
I don't think that gets talked about at all. you know? But yeah, we're all getting pregnant. Everybody's fighting about abortion. Everybody's fighting about all these things that, are political. But when you get down to the root of it, again, it's like, okay, so if we are at any age being sexually active, we have sexual education in schools, which is actually being limited too. Like, it's becoming less and less of a thing that is even talked about. But why are we not talking more about what it actually means to have a baby, what it means to raise a baby, right? We have systems that are failing us, and you can go live on state help and not work and basically get paid to have kids.
Yeah.
That really makes things, again, it's a mental health problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's all twisted. It's all wrong. So it's like, if we could really put things into perspective of like parenting as a whole and like what that means and the job that it means to parent. Nobody's going to be a perfect parent, right?
Mm.
I'm just going to use this as an example, but
Please do.
my two oldest children, when Facebook first came out, I had been on it, I think, for just a couple of years, and then I ended up getting married. My husband was military, and I was like, oh, this will be a great way for my kids to keep in touch with friends and family and whatnot. And I'll check it. I'll check it regularly. Well, what we don't realize is we think we're very in tune with today's technology as adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our children are born into the uprise of technology. They're very, very smart. They're little sponges. They absorb everything. So as we're growing and we think we know all this stuff, they're 10 steps ahead of us.
Yeah.
So as I'm checking all their social media, they're very clever and they know how to go and delete and change things, and I'm not seeing it, right?
Sure.
Well, never did it dawn on me that my kids were smarter than me, right? Never did it dawn on me. And so as time went on, I started to realize certain things, and I'm like, there's something not right, So I would get on there like constant, and I started picking up on everything, and I was like, wow, like the technology is so advanced now, and these kids have all of the knowledge because in school they're talking about it. They have their little friends at school, and they all are comparing notes basically on what to do, and all the norm to them. To us, it's just Facebook, like
Right.
we're a little older. We're not in the new technology, but once I caught on to it, I'm like, holy crap, it was terrifying because I had my 11-year-old daughter and grown engineers, like these grown men, 35, 40 years old, soliciting my daughter, trying to
Oh,
talk.
really?
Yes, trying to talk to my daughter. So shut that down,
Yeah.
their whole social media, everything got shut down. And it just, I realized again, I started researching into stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like the amount of crap that our children have the ability to get their hands on now on their phones, on their tablets, on these things. And this is like years ago. Nowadays, it's even worse,
Have you heard of Roblox?
Yeah.
So have you heard this thing with the pedophiles?
Yeah. Yep.
So I got to tell you, I mean, it's weird. As a cop, you would think I would be wise to that. That one took me by surprise a little bit because my son plays on Roblox. Then all of a sudden, what was it, 2 or 3 months ago, everything comes out about, I can't remember his name, but there was a kid, now he's like 20 something years old, but he was groomed on Roblox when he was younger. And I don't remember if he was sexually assaulted or clearly something bad happened, and I don't think he really talked about it. But when he got older, he made it his mission to go into Roblox. He would find these predators, and he would almost do what cops do, where it's like almost like a sting operation, so to speak, where he would pretend to be a kid. He would get the person's information, and then he would go and give it to the cops or the FBI. And I think they said he was really successful. Like he got, this is a wild guess, I can't remember the exact number, but it was something like 60 predators that he was able to get arrested, right? Well, Roblox caught onto it, and instead of going after these predators, they ended up blocking him and calling him almost like a vigilante. They're like, we need to leave this to law enforcement. And he goes, well, that's what I've been doing. I've just been giving them the information.
Yeah.
And so he exposed that there's all these games that are created by these predators, and they lure kids into it to play. One of them that I was like, how did Roblox not catch this? And here's the thing, I don't think they care after watching those videos. But it was called Public Bathroom Simulator. And they would get kids and they could go, their Roblox character could like shower with other Roblox characters and stuff like that. This is on a kid's game.
Yeah.
And come to find out, that's obviously where these predators are at, where they can try to meet these kids and do that stuff. Absolutely terrifying to me. And again, as a parent, I guess, you don't want to put absolute trust in anyone. But here I am thinking this is a recognized gaming platform. They were doing what they can, and it didn't seem that way.
Well, the problem is, again, like our phones and everything, like everything is made to be a smart device where you can get on anything from anything. Your TVs, like you can't buy a TV, I don't think anymore, that cannot get on to the internet and any app and add any app. So to lock down my TVs at home so my son is not on YouTube behind my back, it's like my next step is taking it out of my house, like all my TVs. I'm not kidding. I don't watch TV. I don't like TV very much. Rarely do I watch TV.
Yeah.
And my kids, the rule of thumb is like when you hit 17, I'm going to open up social media for you to get onto, but it's still going to be very, like, I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to pay attention to things. And why at 17 is because by 18, they need to know how to control all the things themselves. Like I have a 17-year-old right now. She's a senior, my third child. And, she's the third one I've done this with. And I talk to her regularly about things, and I'm like, okay, so how's it going? If she's, approached with anything weird, how are you going to handle it? Whatever. Are you taking proper breaks from your social media, from your phone? It's all to teach them how to manage as they're adults. And kids don't get that very often.
Yeah.
We, oftentimes see kids everywhere you go, they're on something to keep them busy.
Yeah.
Well, what that's creating is creating an addiction in a child already. Addictions can grow into, major addictions very, very quickly. And that's really what we're seeing. And not only does it create addictions, it creates confusion. Their little brains are having access to way too much information that their brain cannot actually process. So then they're subjected to all these things. And if you take psychology, you can learn that, trauma can be something as simple as you have a 6-month-old baby and you have them in the living room with you and you're watching a scary movie, right? And the baby's awake. Well, the baby could be watching the TV and like be paying attention at a scary scene pop up, something that startles them. That's trauma to the brain. So their brain will react to that. So if you have this kind of thing happening constantly, and then you give your toddler a tablet and they're on it constantly, they get very smart very quickly because they start to learn how to maneuver through things. Well, there's so many apps and games now, and pedophilia has been around for for years and years and years and years, right? I think it just used to be kind of grossly accepted, back in the day. And now there's more awareness and more things coming of it because, because of all the technology, you can catch it a lot quicker, a lot more.
So you think it was more?
I think it was accepted. I do.
I think that's so interesting because when I think about it, have you heard of the MAP community?
Yeah.
The minor attractive person.
Yep.
I think there's been people that, they are like proud to be a supporter of that now.
Yeah.
Whereas I look back when I was a kid, if someone came out and they're like, well, this is what I support to do. I mean, they would have people calling in on them. They'd get their ass kicked. People would go and do that. And so in a way, I almost see it as maybe a little bit opposite. Like now you've got these people that are pushing for it to be normalized when it should never be normalized.
Well, it's, again, mental health, and our world as a whole, our entire world does not pay attention to mental health. Mental health is one of those things where if it's not seen, it's not a big deal until somebody starts acting crazy. And then you're like, well, what's wrong with them? Well, there's been signs the whole entire time, if you would just pay attention.
Sure.
But it starts when we're young. So you take a child born into, you know, certain scenarios, whether it be abuse of any kind or, you know, homelessness or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's normal to them. So
Mm.
you have a child that's born into some sort of abuse or pedophilia of some sort where they're being sexually abused.
Mm.
Their brain, they see that as love, right?
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's associated with love. And usually, a lot of times, it happens with people that they should be able to trust, family members, friends, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So if they're associating that abuse with love, and it doesn't even have to be sexual abuse, it can be physical abuse, it can be emotional, verbal abuse, but there's an attachment that's grown there. So then that baby or toddler, or whatever stage they're at, grows up, and now they are forever hanging on to this form of abuse that they're carrying around with them. And that morphs into so many different issues where, again, if we could really understand what parenting means, if we're going to bring a child into the world, we need to understand domestic violence. We need to understand our own mental health. We need to understand, you know, what it means for us to teach a child and raise a child, and whatever we have that might be unhealthy or our own traumas or whatever, we have a huge impact on this little human who now is going to grow into something or somebody that could be, you know, of bad character. But our job is to make them into good character, good citizens. It's not a focal point anymore. And the reason I was bringing up different forms of abuse, not just pedophilia, is like, I feel like back in the day, abuse as a whole used to just be a lot more accepted. It was just kind of like, whatever, dad's drunk again, you know, okay, yeah, he's gonna go hit mom.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you know, grandpa, you know, he's touching somebody again or whatever it might be. It's like, it was normalized. It was like, let's just try to ignore it. It's not happening.
Sure.
Right? Where now, I think there's a lot more awareness on trying to understand the brain, right?
Well, and it's interesting. I guess something that popped in my head when you said that was essentially that's exactly what the Catholic Church was trying to do back in the 90s, when they would have these priests that were found guilty of it, and they would shuffle them around so that way it's like, oh,
Yep.
you know, pastor, whoever, he's doing this. We're just going to move him to a different area. But they never take any steps against it.
Right.
Yeah.
But then what does that show the children that he's hurt?
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
Well, is that normal? So then these children grow up and they think it's normal.
Yeah.
So it's a really sad thing. So this
terrible.
MAP community, it's disgusting,
Yeah.
right? And you know, I have a really hard time. Like, I am a Christian, and I know that God is able to change people's hearts no matter what. But I really do have a hard time with pedophilia because
100%.
I was a child of sexual abuse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when you grow up around certain things, I knew at a young age, this is wrong. And I was able to maneuver my way away from things. But I never forgot how horrible it was to experience, to feel. And you always feel like you're walking around with just this like light on your head where everybody can see all the trauma you've had, right?
Okay.
But it was trauma of all sorts. And I'm a very open book, clearly. But it's the experiences teach you and it opens your mind to things. So for me, I don't understand how people, like, I can't understand how people turn into addicts. So I don't understand it, but there is a reason for it. Some people don't know how to process the pain. Some people don't know how to process the trauma. They were never taught. Some people's brains, we all are just so different with how we work, right?
Yeah.
So it's again, it's a hard thing for me. Any form of abuse that may happen to a child, is wrong. It just makes my stomach turn, right? But when you can grow up and become an adult and you still carry those things on, like, why are you not trying to change your life?
Sure.
Once you are aware at a younger age, like, I know that this is wrong. I would never do this to somebody. How can you not think that at a young age? But
Yeah.
that's why mental health is like, in my opinion, it's the root cause to a lot of our issues. A lot of our problems that our kids are facing in school every day, why there's so much division amongst adults constantly, is like our perceptions are built off of our experiences. So you and me could view it. Look, I mean, we're saying the same thing, but we still are intrigued by what another is thinking because our perceptions are very different from our own experiences, right? Um, and if we're not taking that into consideration for each individual and trying to be open-minded and going inward thinking, like, why is this person reacting this way? Why is this person doing this? Well, there's groups out there and there's help out there. There's a lot of help out there for, I mean, even talking about homeless people, right? Like, if we bring the homeless issues up, I mean, homelessness is becoming a very big problem, right? Again, there's not enough people trying to talk to them and trying to understand, like, well, why are you on the street? And if you take the time and you actually go and try to serve the homeless and have these conversations, obviously in a safer space, like where there's more people, you don't want to just go down by the river and hang out with a bunch of people, but
Sure.
you know what I mean? As long as you have somebody with you and you open up dialogue, it's actually pretty interesting how many people want to be homeless.
Oh, yeah.
But it's, again, they've lived through some pain that they don't want to face. They don't know how to face it. And so they shut down and they react in ways that they probably wouldn't have if they had somebody to kind of sit with them and talk with them about, what they've been through. Why are they reacting this way now? Why is their body responding this way? Why do they have anger? Why do they have, their perception is like, the world is so terrible. It's worthless. I don't amount to anything. So why does it matter? I'm going to take my paychecks from the VA that are 45. And this is a real story. I think I actually mentioned it to you one time.
Yeah.
About a man, out of many that we served one November, every weekend we would go serve food and stuff. But this one guy was like, yeah, I mean, I'm a vet. I take my retirement disability check, almost $5,000 a month. I cash it and I just come hang out. This is my family. I feel accepted here. I feel like these people understand me. I don't have to explain myself. And this is just where I'm happy. And he offered to take me and my family to dinner, which was crazy. But, a lot of people want to live in that because they don't see anything bigger for themselves. They're stuck in that pain. And that's where you see a lot of the issues that are happening and why they're getting so bad.
So, well, with that being said, though, I mean, here they are where they're at in this moment. All of their decisions led them to this point. And so from my experience as a cop, I mean, we have the homeless outreach team for CSPD, the world's first homeless outreach team. And they have really specialized in how to talk to a lot of these homeless people. The problem is once they get to that point, how do you bring them back? I mean, Colorado Springs has, from what I'm aware, probably the most resources I've seen in a city agency for homeless people. We've got many places they can stay. We've got many alcohol, drug abuse programs. We have like work release type programs where we can get them a job and they can go and do all that. But at the end of the day, it does have to be their choice. And I think that where the HOT team, homeless outreach team, where they struggle is you can offer someone anything.
Right. And then it's their choice.
And that's kind of the problem is it's like, well, how do we, as a society, how do we stop, this homelessness? How do we stop a lot of the criminal activity we're seeing? How do we do it? And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's many ways we can do it. Case in point, going back to an earlier point that you talked about, parenting, right? I find it fascinating because I think that being a father, Like if you want a predictor on whether someone is going to be a good law-abiding citizen or not, a father is a huge predictor of that. If you have a good dad that takes care of you, shows you right from wrong, disciplines, usually they're the disciplinarian, but they help you understand where consequences are. That's a pretty good predictor that you're going to be a good citizen, a good person. You know, you're going to have positive relationships in your life. But the minute the father is gone, or if the father is abusive or anything like that, that's when, you know, a lot of bad things can happen to this tiny human that's starting to develop. And yet you don't really see many people talk about that. You know, no one.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't. It makes me sad because we live in a fatherless country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, I was talking about this one day. This was after the Charlie Kirk situation and just like the craziness that has gone on since, right?
Insanity.
It's just
Yeah.
gotten so much worse. But it's like that's when I was like, why are we not talking about, why if you look at the recent shooters, most of them in the past, we'll say 3 years,
Mm.
right? If you look, they're all very similar. Okay, they're
A
all
lot of them are trans, is what I'm being told.
well, they're associated with trans community or
Trans adjacent, maybe.
yeah, some.
Okay.
But what's most common is they're white,
Yep.
they're young males
Okay.
between like ages like I think there was like a 16, 15-year-old because there was that shooting in Texas by that young one. But they're all gamers, like
Okay.
highly addicted gaming, right? Um, they usually have families or parents that are very, like successful as far as like they have jobs, they're something, right?
Sure.
But their kids are very entitled. I feel like the parents are very like complacent with, oh, here's yeah, I'm working and I have all this, but here's video games and here's a phone and here's this. I'm not going to pay attention to you. So we're forgetting that these children that are becoming like adult human beings
Yeah.
that are going to one day be in charge of things, they have things that they need. They don't need to just be fed and housed. They need connection. They need human connection. And if they're not getting connection and affection and attention and quality time, and we talk about love languages, a lot of people know about love languages. What about the love language of our children?
That's a good point.
Right? But a lot of adults, you're meant to be seen, not heard. That's comes from when we were kids.
Yeah, I remember.
But shoot, I can think back growing up and I definitely didn't have all the things that I needed. I can say the number one thing that I had that was consistent is I had a mom, no matter what we were going through, and we were raised through a lot of crazy stuff. When me and my brothers get together, it's crazy to talk about. But she always taught us love and affection in the right way, even though she was being abused all the time. And
Sure.
she was just trying her hardest to make sure that we're safe. We were in survival mode constantly, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But it just, when dads are not present all the time, it does cause major issues, major issues. And that can go to say for moms that go absent as well. We have so many broken homes. It's just the normal thing now. It's normal. It's normal to have a home with, different fathers, different mothers, everybody's blended now. Usually it's not a peaceful co-parenting thing, right? Most of the time it's chaos,
Yeah.
right? So these children across our nation are being raised by just chaos on chaos on chaos. And then they can look on the news and social media and what do they see? They see a bunch of adults and presidents that are acting like children that are chaos, right? So that's like the new norm now is chaos. And it's all twisted. It's not supposed to be that way. So, it does start at home. It does start when they're little. And I think we've just really lost control and understanding of the idea of like parenting, having children to parent, to guide, to lead. And we have men that aren't leading. We have men that don't know how to lead. We have men that, you know, my son one day said, Mom, did guys back in your day growing up, did they really care about like how they looked and were they kind of feminine like a lot of guys are now? And I was like, oh my gosh. That's actually interesting that he even said that, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's true. Like, no, no. A lot of guys would have had their butts kicked back in the day,
Absolutely.
with the way that they act. And now you have women stepping into the masculine role, and I can relate to that. You know, I've been a single mom on and off my whole life, but I have to discipline my son, and it's hard. You know, it's a good thing I'm a power lifter because otherwise he wouldn't be very scared of me. Right? But he knows that I don't play, but I always explain to him, I'm raising you to be a man. I'm raising you to be a husband one day and a father and to be a leader. I'm not raising you to cave and to be this victim that had all these problems growing up and the woe's me, the pitiful, like, well, what about me? Like, we could all sit and do that. We all have something that we've been through that's like, well, what about me? Why can't I be loved, right? Or why did I get abused? Or why did I have this happen to me? It's if we can go inward and think to ourselves like, okay, I had this happen to me, right? And I think that that's why it's easy for me to talk about different traumas and stuff because I've had to sit in it and think, okay, this happened to me and it hurts so bad, especially when it's somebody that you should have been able to trust.
Sure.
And I can honestly say my whole entire life, men are a very hard species for me to trust.
Sure.
However, I know that I have to survive, right? And if I can't survive on my own, how am I supposed to have my kids survive? How am I supposed to teach them? So I have to know how to care for myself, take accountability, understand the world does not revolve around me, but I must understand how the world revolves, right? I must figure out where do I fit into this world. We all have a place. We all are struggling to find that place oftentimes. Again, that's where identity issues come in. So if you are struggling with your identity, which most of us do, and I'm going to go back to the beginning of our conversation, my breast implants, I really felt like I needed them. I had 4 kids. I breastfed all 4 kids. I was like, oh, like I deserve it. And I just think that it'll make me look better. I'll be more accepted by my husband. I won't be so insecure with, how I look and just what society, it was like what I was seeing, right? It's what I was subjected to, reality TV, you see all the girls with big boobs, big fake boobs.
Sure.
And it's like my identity, I wanted my identity to be a little bit more than what it was. And so I had to have surgery to do that. Well, talking about like how God comes to me, he comes to me in my dreams a lot.
Yeah.
And I was going through some stuff with the transgender issues that we have with people and just the confusion that they feel. And there's people I love that are trans. So I've had those talks and stuff, but I was really struggling trying to understand. And God came to me and said, this is a condition of the heart. It's an identity issue. You are no different than a transgender person. You and your breast implants, you're no different. You felt you needed to change your body to be accepted in society a certain way, to fit in, to be loved properly. And that's the problem. The problem is in the heart. So when we can go inside and look at ourselves and understand, okay, well, why do I feel like I don't fit in? Why do I have to go drink? Why do I have to go do drugs? Why do I have to change my identity and my sex? Why do I have to dress a certain way to feel accepted? That's something I went through too growing up, and my brothers would always be like, why do you feel like you have to, do modeling shoots and stuff like that? well, I enjoyed it. It was a form of art for me, but I could also understand their perspective and understanding that I was their sister and they didn't want to see their sister dressed a certain way for a photo shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not all people look at modeling the same way and think, "Oh, that's beautiful." Some people are like, "She just wants attention." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had to really look inside and try to understand, like, why do people see this about me? Why am I being judged for this? And I started to make sense of it. I was like, okay, I can understand why their perception is what it is, and as a mother and, you know, um, if I'm wearing, a top that shows a lot, like, what are these people feeling or seeing about me? And oftentimes it's their own perception, their own experiences and issues that they might have, problems with internally. But so I don't have to like change everything I'm doing, but to understand perspective is a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, identity is where, we all start to have these little struggles and stuff and turn into big struggles, big
Well,
addictions.
and let me ask you a question because you brought it up, and I'm just really curious. Strong woman. I mean, you have been strong your entire life. You're teaching your kids to be strong. And you started talking, and I agree with you about how men these days are maybe a little bit more feminine. And I mean, essentially, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Did men just stop being masculine, or was there something that was kind of forcing them into this kind of beta male position, right? Because I think about when I was growing up in the 80s, dude, you were a man, and you know what? You liked cars, and you liked having a beer, and America, and apple pie, and shit like that. And then you look today, and you got people putting eyeliner on men, and it's a complete 180. And it's funny because this relates to something I've been seeing a lot on TikTok, where these girls are really pissed that men don't want to approach them, like, at all. You go back 20 years and it's like you have a girl that's a 10 over there, and men are just flying out of buildings to go and talk to her. But now it doesn't seem to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess, I mean, what caused it versus what can correct it? I think it's a societal issue. And I do think Hollywood is to blame for a lot of this, right? I mean, you can't, and Disney, I'm calling you out, right? You are on my shit list. But that being said, you watch like a Marvel movie. I grew up reading Marvel comic books. That is a guy thing.
Yeah.
And when with my son, I like us reading comics together. I like us going to the movies. Well, now it's become this girl boss thing where the guys are the dumb idiots off to the side, and the girl takes the lead and does everything, and is very smart and is able to navigate it. And no one's saying that a woman can't do that, right? But it seems to be so regular that the guys they've been pushed again into this beta male position. And guys, like you talk about, that are kids that are all they do is spend the time on the iPad or they're watching TV, they see that that's what a man should be like.
Yep.
But so now, how do we get out of it?
Okay. Well, I agree. Men in general, it is sad because I think when like feminism
Yeah.
movements started, I believe that women deserve to have equal rights as well as anybody, right? We all deserve, and that's what everybody's always fighting for, is equal rights, equal rights. Okay, but like if you look at like women are supposed to be the nurturers for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have women that are just they don't have their partner. It's a single home usually. They're raising their kids on their own. They have to be out working constantly, and we've been put into this space as women where we have to work ourselves to death to try to make ends meet. I myself, being by myself with my I did have child support with my daughters, but my son, my youngest son, and my oldest son, I did not have child support. And that was by choice. That was me saying, I don't want your support, because it was a control thing, right? It was
Sure.
like, well, I'd rather have peace than money. I'd rather have time with my child than money kind of
Mhm.
situation. And so I through the courts said I don't want that. Like they can keep their money. I just want to be able to have the rights to my child, basically. So that was my choice, right? So I do have to work extra hard, and where two people would be helping raise a child financially, I don't have that. Um, but with that, I've become so like extremely independent, always in survival mode,
Yeah.
that when my boyfriend has tried to step in and lead in certain ways, it's like it's really hard for me to swallow, because I'm like, I know how to do it and my way is better. So I'm just,
I see.
do you understand?
Yeah.
But I also think that there are other things um that have driven men to be pushed into this place of insecurity and stuff too. Just like women though. And again, it is everything we're seeing all over the internet. Um, everybody's fake. Everybody's had something done. Um,
Well, I feel like it's kind of and I think this word is so stupid, gaslighting. I don't like it. It's been shoved down our throats. But in reality, I mean, I want to say it's over the past 10 years where toxic masculinity, and that gets misapplied to just any form of masculinity. So like a guy goes to the gym with his gym bros and goes and works out. Well, that's toxic masculinity. It's like,
that's actually
what?
pretty normal. Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's so I don't know, it's just really weird. And then it doesn't sound like you do gaming very much.
I know.
Okay. Um so it's really funny to me because I am a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
They've had games come out, and I'm sure you won't recognize any of them, but there was one specifically that I wanted to bring up, a Space Marine 2. And if you want to talk about the game that is the guy's game, it's a bunch of jacked dudes that go and fight alien races with a chainsaw blade, and you're decapitating and whatever. And you can think what you want about the content in the game, but the simple fact of the matter is that game came out to unbelievable reviews. And in my opinion, it was because it was the first game in like 10 years that really appealed to men. You don't have these main femboy characters. No one's wearing cat ears or any of this crap. It was like a men's game.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what men want. They just want to know that that's acceptable, and they shouldn't have to hide their masculinity. But society, I mean, they come down pretty hard. I won't say society as a whole, but there's segments of it where it's like you come out and you're like, this is bullshit. I'm a man. And they are like, why are you being so toxic, you Nazi?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it gets kind of shoved in your face.
Well, it's weird because you hear a lot of times now too where it's like gender roles. You hear that a lot, the issues with gender roles. There's gender roles for a reason. A woman was created to be again the nurturer. We are to oversee the children and teach them a lot differently than men. The men were made to go out hunting for the food, and this is just creation as a whole.
Yeah.
And now we have all these different things that we're capable of doing, and everything's getting watered down, and now gender roles are so terrible. And it's like I hear a lot and I'm like, that's bizarre. But
Yeah.
and I don't quite understand that, because I feel like if I wasn't in survival mode most of my life and I could just be a homemaker. I was a homemaker for like 3.5 years of my life, where I did not have to work, and I was a badass homemaker. Right? You could have eaten off my floors. My kids were on a strict routine from the time that they woke up at 6:30 a.m. to 7 o'clock bath time, bedtime at 8 p.m. And it was like clockwork every single day. All the bills were paid. I made sure nothing was falling behind. We didn't have dirty laundry in the house. Everything was clean. Everything was organized. I had time to teach my kids ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and
Sure.
I did play games with my little boy here and there. He still is a gamer. He's 27 years old, and he's still a gamer. And but I had time to do that, and that's what I feel like I was created to do. And I've never been able to do that because I've always had to figure out how to survive, right?
Sure.
So minus the 3.5 years, I've always had to just survive and work while I was married, I still had to work, because he didn't agree with, paying for all the stuff I wanted. He did pay for, the house and mortgage and that kind of thing, insurance and whatnot. But I was in charge of my own car payments and, clothes and stuff for the kids and whatever. So it was like more of a combined thing,
Well,
right?
what does balanced look like to you in a relationship? Just out of, I mean, what is a perfectly balanced relationship when it comes to like paying or responsibilities? What does that look like to you?
It's hard because nowadays, I do you want to know from like the situation that I'm in currently or what a dream would be?
What would a dream be? I mean,
Okay, it would be I could invest in raising children
okay,
and helping them learn how to be a balanced human being, mind, body, soul,
sure.
understanding how to eat properly, life skills, teaching them, working on homework with them, being highly involved in school, volunteering, being very involved with raising the children, but also serving my husband and making sure that, the home was kept up, dinner and breakfast, everything was made, his lunches were made. Um, I was really good at doing all of that, and
What would his responsibilities be to provide
like
that balance? How could he best serve?
me,
Yeah.
Um, if he was working, he would obviously, be able to cover bills and stuff, but also understand that I have a job, but my job is to raise our children and you are there to help raise our children too. I think it's always been built inside of me that I do need to work on the side too to have my own money. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's been something that I would
Survive
still
in case
do that.
something happens.
Yes, I would still do that because it's one day my partner may not be there, right? And this isn't a perfect situation. My partner may not be there, so how will I take care of my own stuff? So I would always probably make sure that I had some sort of income as well, but to create balance where me and my partner had time together, but we were also able to co-parent together in a balanced way. So he was respected, I was respected, and there's harmony there. Not orders being given either way, right? A woman doesn't need to tell
The
her
partnership.
yeah, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
partnership. But it's in today's world, it's just not what it is. So um I work a lot and I just all I want in my relationship, if I had a perfect relationship, is the balance of, being taken on a date once in a while, or maybe something being made for me for dinner too,
Ab-
or supporting me, um, with parenting and making sure that the kids are staying on routine and, that kind of balance. I just think that balance is all of that has changed so significantly that um, it's hard. I'm not a man hater, so I don't want to come off
Yeah, I
wrong.
don't think that.
But it's really hard for me sometimes because it's like a lot of situations now where, people see me and they're like, "Oh, you must make a lot of money because you have all these businesses." I don't make that much money, and I think that's the twisted thing with being an entrepreneur. I think all of us can relate, that it's not like that. My goal is to have money, a lot of money one day, but
Yeah.
I work really hard, blood, sweat, tears to have what I have. Um, but it would still be nice to have that support and balance where somebody wants to also, you know, take take stuff off my plate to where I don't feel so overwhelmed. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it for me, that's what I like to do for my partner. I like to try to clear the plate however I can. And I'm not saying I've never had that. That's not what I'm saying, or that I don't have that um, in moments. But the world we live in, it's very hard to achieve that because
I
we're not built like that anymore.
well, and I think if I had to dissect what you told me right there, because I agree with you 110%, it almost seems like in simpler times, taking away all the extreme situations or, cultural issues, but just going back into like the 30s, 40s, 50s. I think people would be happier when it was the family. Everyone's focused on the family. How can
Yeah.
we do the best for the family? Um, but maybe that's what, we yearn for. But in today's age where you can barely make it on two incomes, back then you could make it on a single income. And so now people have to work more. They have to pick up the overtime. And so that really kind of throws things out of whack when it comes to the family unit, which cascades into all these other issues. It could be mental issues, emotional issues. Did I kind of peg that right?
Yeah, 100%. And so we don't have the capabilities. I mean, in reality, we shouldn't be bringing so many kids into the world the way that it is right now, because it's so imbalanced and it is so expensive. I think that if, like, for me, I'll shut my social media off. I'll deactivate it once in a while. And a lot of my business comes from like Facebook and stuff, so it's hard for me to shut it off. But when I do shut things off, and I get very intentional by adding a little bit of extra moments into, cooking a bigger meal and having, Sunday family dinners. I love doing that with my kids and my grandkids. And it's like my heart. Like, I love it. So even though I don't have everything that, bring up Disney, but watching Disney movies growing up, it's like you want the prince and the perfect home and the perfect this
White
and the
picket
perfect
fence.
all of it, right? And it just sets us up for failure too, in a way. And so that's why it's like, so when you say what would be the perfect balance, it's like when you're little, you have these ideas of what it would be, and now our kids are little and seeing
How we have to do things.
and it's just so twisted. So it makes sense why kids grow up and they're just, a mess now, and the chaos is growing so rampantly. But it I don't know, delusion's a big problem, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and it's being fed to us through social media. So I think shutting it off is really good. Cutting the TV off, making it a night where, like, my son will come home and say, "Can I watch TV?" Nope, we're gonna hang out. We're gonna cook together. I want to talk to you about your day. We might do a Bible study or just sit and just talk. Like, and so we sit at the dinner table and we talk. And you don't see that as much as we should anymore. You know what I mean? So the only way I mean, the only way I know how to make a difference is in any of this is, helping people, being an example to my own children. So hopefully they can learn from my mistakes. And I can teach them to do better and be better than I ever was and ever have. I don't want my kids to be teen parents. I don't want them to struggle like I have my whole entire life. So it's my duty to teach them, what drugs and alcohol can do, what, being promiscuous at a young age can do. Where does that stem from? I always explain to I'm very open with all of my children about everything. And so far I have 2 adults that are thriving. They have families and children, and they're successful and they're solid. I have another one getting ready to graduate, and she's got a great head on her shoulders, and I'm working on my last one. So, but we can only do what we can do. And
it's a great point.
I just shutting off the internet, shutting off the electronics, shutting off all the extra stuff is something that I think we need. And I think if people could really understand, the expenses of living too, how many subscriptions do you have to have on your TV a month? It's the little subscriptions that add up, I got Pandora, I have Spotify, so it's like I'll dial in and I'll be like, okay, where's all my money going? Oh, it's these stupid subscriptions. And then you forget about them. So it's like dialing back and re-looking at everything. We could probably save money as families a lot more, right? Spend more intentional time with our partners and our children, and investing in our spiritual health, because our soul does go somewhere. It doesn't just stay here and wander around.
Well, and I want to talk to you about that here in a little bit. I think back to kind of the question that I was going down, just as far as like the manliness, or the manly feminization, whatever you want to call it, I think really what it's going to come down to, if I had to, pick a solution, is going to be that the any guy out there that wants to achieve some level of happiness has to really kind of take control of their own masculinity and, try to develop that, whatever that looks like. There's a really good book that I read that I love that actually helped me as a man to understand the balance. Because I think so many problems with men is, again, how far is too far? You know what I mean? If I'm constantly, as an example, maybe this was toxic masculinity, I'll call myself out, but when I got out of the Marines, we were always messing with the Army guys. And so I came back and I would go and I would to the gym. I'd wear all my Marine stuff and I'd go punk out some Army guys and stuff like that. I look back on it now and I'm like, what an asshole. You know what I mean? That was a really dick move. And it was just some, 21-year-old kid that just was constantly looking for a fight. You need to dial that down, right?
Yeah.
And
Control.
yeah, so The Warrior Poet Way is a book that I read that helped you understand that you want to be that warrior sometimes. You want to be the man that takes care of the woman, that puts food on the table. But you also do have kind of responsibility to be a little bit more articulate, to be caring for the family, to try and, try new things, dancing, artwork, something like that. But it's no longer is it something that just develops. I think society kind of rallies against it. And so I don't know. I just think that's what men have to do. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on that last part.
No. You weren't cutting me off.
So now when it comes to going back to what you were saying, our soul, it doesn't just end here. It goes other places. If I was to ask 1,000 people where they felt the soul went, I would get 1,000 different responses because none of us know. What do you think?
I do believe in heaven and hell,
Okay.
right? I don't believe it's like growing up. I was raised Baptist. It was very extreme.
You were raised Baptist. That is, yeah, I've heard that that's really extreme.
It felt very extreme. I felt judged from the time I was so tiny, and then growing up in the chaos that we grew up in, it was constantly feeling like there was all judgment. I've been told, trying to find churches here in Colorado Springs as a single mother, when my two oldest were little, I got told I was, going to hell for all kinds of things at church. Yeah. So I would leave feeling defeated and everything. And, I think once I started to realize, like, our spiritual walk, it's just so, like, it's just very unique to us. It's, there's many religions, there's many ways that people tell you should and should not be and should not believe. And some people are more in tune with their spiritual side more than others. Some people don't even know because they've never been taught or shown or anything, right? But I do believe that if we do not feed our soul properly, and that might look different to everybody, right?
Yeah.
I do believe in Jesus. I believe in God, and I believe in the Holy Spirit. I have felt the Holy Spirit. I have very many instances where there is no other way that I should have lived, or made it through. And I can recall hearing him, and my dreams, and I've had dreams about people where I have to give them a message, and it's very random and weird, and it's crazy.
Have you ever given them the message?
Yeah.
And what do they say?
Most of the time they cry and they say, well, how did you know this? And so it's pretty intense.
Can you give me an example?
Okay. I had a client, her name was Amanda. It's happened twice with her. Very weird situations. Okay. Just random too.
Yeah.
So I had a dream one night that it was about this dog, and in the dream, the dog died of a heart attack. Okay, the heart exploded or something.
Oh.
I don't know. It was just real random, right?
Yeah.
So I woke up puzzled because the dreams where God talks to me or like shows me certain things, it's I get kind of emotional with it. So I woke and it was just so weird. I was like, okay, well, she ends up texting me and she was just not okay. And she's like, my dog died last night.
Oh no.
And I was like, that's really weird because I had a dream about a dog that died of a heart attack, and then they figure out that that's what the dog died from.
Really?
Just really weird, right? There was another time where this is pretty it's a sad deal, but her stepdaughter was hit by a car and killed.
Oh my.
And they were going through a really difficult time, and they're married now and stuff, but I had a dream that her husband was struggling and he was growing suicidal, and there was something steps that they needed to take. So when I woke up, I messaged her right away and I said, I need to talk to you. And she's like, oh my gosh, you had a dream, didn't you? And so she
knew.
it was like 7 a.m. and she called me, and I was like, I told her about the dream. I said, you just be more aware of what is going on with him. Have this talk with him. And she was just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And we just recently talked again, and she said, it is so weird, how you've had these dreams, but she's had a couple of them, more recently too. So we were sharing stories and whatnot. I had another client, I had only done her hair for a short period of time. I stopped doing her hair in 2020, and I had a dream where, it jumped from, like, at the time, my ex-husband, my boyfriend, and then this random guy. They were all military, they were all in uniform, and it was like they turned into each other, but it was this girl in this dream. She had long dark hair, but they were cheating with this girl, right?
Okay.
Well, this girl, Nicole, shows up in my dream, and she's just beside herself. And it turns out that it was her partner was having an affair on her, and they had been together for like 8 months or something like that. And I had never met her kids or anything, but her kids were in my dream. And then it showed her house, and I was helping her basically like purge things out of her life. And there was like all these like little trinkets and stuff that we had to go through together and decide what she wanted to keep. And her kids were real emotional, but the whole story was that God needed her to understand that she needed to purge, she needed to get away from this relationship so she could get past things and be stronger for her
Yeah.
kids and stuff. It was really weird. I messaged her on Facebook because we hadn't really talked in a couple of years.
Yep.
And I just told her, I said, are you doing okay? And she's like, it's funny that you reached out. I'm struggling really bad. And I said, well, I need to talk to you. Like, I had this dream. And I said, I know it's going to sound weird. So she ended up calling me, and I told her, and she just was crying. And she's like, yeah, I actually just found out that I was being cheated on.
Oh, poor.
Rafa and I am going through a lot. And how did you know that? Like, I don't understand how you knew all this. And I said, I know it's weird. I don't know. The message is yada, yada, yada. And she just thanked me. And, as far as I know, she's doing a lot better. And this is 2022, I think it was that happened. So it just strange stuff like that. I knew when my daughter was pregnant the first time. I knew when my friend was pregnant.
Do you think so? Looking at this, because I would call it a gift or an ability. I mean, you were able to tap into something to where you get information is kind of fed to you that maybe a normal person wouldn't have access to. Do you consider that some sort of spiritual gift, or do you think it's more like you are open to some sort of connection mentally? Like they say, human beings have more gifts. We're just not always willing to accept it. What do you think it is?
I think it stems from, different traumas and experiences. I think that there's times that, I remember from the time I was 15 months old, I can think back to scenarios where I had to observe people and really like, people watch their patterns and watch their body language. And I got really good at reading that kind of thing, but I do think it is spiritual too. I think it's a combination of experiences, and then, of course, you have to have an open heart to be led by spirit as well. You can't, some people are very closed off and they live their whole life like that. I always try to encourage people to just, go inward, learn how to be more open, understand that it's not just about us, understand, like when somebody enters the room, I can usually sense like, you know, there's stuff there. Sometimes I can feel things about somebody they don't even have to tell me.
Mm.
Um, And sometimes it's really heavy. I can sense when, it's not safe. I can feel all kinds of stuff. But
Sure.
again, it does, you do have to be open. You have to be open-minded, open heart to accept the different things. If you're too closed off, you're going to be typically, closed off people are very judgmental. They're very set in their ways.
Yeah.
They're very, a lot of times they're very angry. They're very, right about everything. So
Enough.
it's okay to be wrong. It's healthy to be wrong and acknowledge that you're wrong. It's where we all learn,
Sure.
So, but as far as the soul, I never answered that either. The soul, I just think that there's different levels to this life, and our soul is energy, and we are a vessel, and we have to nurture the soul just as much as our body, and understand that when our body ends, our soul will carry on. And I do believe it's, heaven, hell is really, I feel like hell, our spirits basically get stuck here,
So that would be like the paranormal experiences that people claim to have.
I kind of think so, yeah. I think heaven is our souls can ascend higher where they're called to go. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of books and stories where people have died and been brought back, where they have actual things that they saw and felt and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting information out there based on experience.
There's many different ways to think, and I find it fascinating. Because like I said, everyone has their own idea of what's going to happen, but then in the end, they really have no idea. We all will cross that bridge eventually, but until that time, we can just only give our best guess.
Have you ever been present when somebody passes away?
Yes.
Okay. And you can feel their spirit. You literally can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
It's interesting. There's a lot of theories that people say too, where it's like we just keep coming back in different forms, and I don't know.
Like reincarnation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You bring up an interesting point, and I was talking with on a previous podcast. So I'm friends with Clarissa Vasquez, and she's Colorado's #1 paranormal investigator. She's been on the show before. And one of the things we discussed in a previous episode was reincarnation. People take a guess, or I remember seeing this one guy that's like, well, I am this general from the Civil War. And you look at him and he's got his beard sculpted out the same way. And it's like, well, I think you're reaching, like you're trying to make yourself seem like this person. But there's been some really fascinating stories. And one that has always stuck with me since I heard about it was these parents, I think it was their 6-year-old, started talking about how he used to be a pilot in World War II. And he was bringing up times and locations. He was flying in this area, blah, 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 blah. And this kid should not know any of this. And so he kept bringing up this friend's name that was like his best friend in World War II. And his parents, they weren't sure what to do. But he was so specific that they were kind of intrigued, and they're like, well, let's figure this out. So they looked this guy up. He was still alive. I think he was in his 80s. It was a real person. And so they brought this 6-year-old, they hit this guy up, and they brought him over there and said, hey, this is what he's saying. And they started conversing about stories that they had during World War II. And so how did that happen, right?
Yeah.
How does this kid have access to the knowledge? On the one hand, you could just say everyone's nuts and this kid was making it all up. But I don't think that that's what happened, right? Like it's too specific. So you could say, well, maybe this kid had the ability to reach, kind of like you, you have these dreams. Maybe he had something similar and he got this information and mistook it as it was him, but maybe it wasn't. Or maybe there is such a thing as reincarnation and he's back. So I don't know. I find stuff like that so fascinating. Just the unknown,
It is. It is. And I think that's as a whole, as everything we've talked about today, the unknown, like I think we all need to really like pay attention to there's always going to be another way, something else. We
Mhm.
can't be stuck in the chaos. We can't be stuck in all the distractions and all the stuff, you know. Um I
Yeah.
think yeah, there's always unknown, and somebody will experience something new, you
Yeah.
know. There, and then the unknown changes.
Sure.
So but yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. I don't know. I'm an overthinker, so there's times my mind goes pretty wild where, yeah.
I don't think it's wild,
Yeah.
to question stuff. I think the wild people are the ones that never question anything, personally.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting. My mom, she never claimed to be psychic or anything like that, but there's been moments where she, a lot like you, would get information from somewhere. In her, what she would do is, when she was sleeping, she would wake up and something would strike her, something in the dream, and she would start journaling her
I
dreams.
used to do that.
And she's a creative. I was like, okay, well, she just likes to write her dreams down. One thing that hit me as a kid was when she woke up one night and she started journaling about something called anthrax. And I was like, what is that? Right. And this was literally weeks before. I don't know if you remember in the 90s, the
Yeah.
anthrax scares where they sent it out ever happened weeks before that. And she had no clue what the hell it was, but it came to her in a dream. And it was fascinating to see that she tapped into it. And there were other times where she would be having a conversation with me and she would just stop and have this blank stare. And she'd be like, I'm feeling this way, or something is driving me to call this person or whatever. And so I don't know. I've been around stuff like that my whole life, so I don't even think I don't think it's ridiculous or anything. I think certain people just have access to it. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like there it was quite some time ago. I started having memories from when I was like a year old.
Really?
Yeah. Just
Nope.
and I called my dad one time because I was like, Dad, I've always tried to like, stay in counseling, some sort of counseling, whether it be, talk therapy, or I've done some, spiritual stuff. I think it's called Splunkna. Anyway, there's
Splunk.
Splunkna.
I've never heard of that.
Here. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Let me just verify it real quick. I actually had a friend who keeps it. Yes, Splunkna. It's a spiritual form of therapy where uh your therapist, or um the person that guides the session, you know, you pray together, they ask the Holy Spirit to come and reveal layers of things that need to be addressed, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
It's I think it's somebody that's able to be used in their calling of, not being psychic, but being an intercessor and that kind of thing. Um, and it is very interesting. But anyways, I always am trying to work on self-healing and whatnot to understand myself. Why do I react certain ways? What triggers me? Like, I'm constantly trying to look in on that kind of thing. Um, but go ahead.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bring it.
Do I need?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No.
And what was I saying? Where was this? Where was I going?
Splunkna.
Yeah.
And how you always try to look within yourself or self-healing.
Yeah. What was the question before?
Man, we had covered a lot of ground.
Okay, we'll just carry on. Because my mind just went.
Well, you were saying that you had a memory from when you were one.
Oh, that's right. Okay, and that's where that started coming in more, is when I was doing more intentional therapies and stuff to try to understand my traumas. And I remember I had fallen down the stairs. I was like 15 months old, about, he said, when it happened, but I called him about it. And I said, I remember falling down the stairs, and I remember that our stairs were not finished. Like, it was a cement basement, and you had all your gym equipment down there. I remember you didn't have your shirt on.
Mm.
You were sweaty, and when I fell down the stairs, you picked me up, and I even remember like the sweat on his like shoulders. And
Yep.
I just remember crying as a little baby and him telling me that it was going to be okay and that he like checked my hands and stuff. And it was weird because that memory came, I was doing treatment with this psychiatrist. She was doing what is it called? It's like mind mapping where she would like ask me questions and then she would say, okay, well, what's a memory? And then you would write the memory down and then she'd say, okay, who's attached to the memory? And you
Really?
yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And so this came up and I just started crying because I'm like, that's the first time I felt like genuine love from a man. And I've never really felt that type of genuine love again in my life
Yeah.
until I got a little bit older, but it was just so strange how striking it was over my emotions and it was painful because she was like, well, there was certain why do I accept abuse? Why do I keep getting in relationships where I'm abused, or why have I done this? And she's asking all these questions and it just started to make sense. So in school where you do like story mapping where you have like the main idea and then you make the little circle and then the lines.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like the same thing. So it was just really interesting and I started having memories from way, way young. And my dad's like, "How do you remember that?" I was like, "I don't know. I even remember like where my crib was in the house, the hallway, the way that it was set up. Like it was just
Wild.
it was bizarre. Like the more that and I think that just comes with, again, allowing yourself to open up to understand who are you? Like why do you act the way you act? Why do you make the choices you make? And, when you really want to understand yourself and do better and grow, like that's what you have to do. You got to open up. And so it can bring pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got one other question. I wrote it down while I was thinking about it. It was something that you said earlier. So one of the things you were mentioning was at one point in time you were doing modeling shoots,
Mhm.
and that your brothers may not have felt that they wanted you to do that, or they thought that you should be doing other things. I would love to get your input on OnlyFans. Because, there's a lot of people that maybe they like it, maybe they don't, what have you, from a guy's perspective. I want to say that maybe, just with all my experiences, in a way, I can say, here I am doing content creation and stuff like that. And I hear about some of these girls that come straight out of, they're 18 years old and they
Mhm.
become overnight millionaires. And it's a little bit of kind of an envy in a way that there's an opportunity like that for a woman that a guy just doesn't have access to. But on the flip side, obviously there's stuff, baggage that may come with this OnlyFans. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's so many ways to look at that, honestly. If you're looking at it, I I find it kind of sad.
Okay.
Okay, first and foremost, because I was a broken young girl and I thought I basically had to have sex to be loved, right?
Okay.
I had to draw attention to myself to be loved. And I ended up pregnant um right after I lost my virginity.
Oh.
So for me, looking back on my life, it's like I've always been judged. I've always been called names. I told you I was a tomboy, so I was always with my brothers and guy friends. My best friends were guys growing up.
Sure.
I was not sexually active when I was being called these names. There was always that present, and then when I ended up getting pregnant at 15 years old, it was like, wow. Like now people are still calling me it, and now I just confirmed that, their ideas of me are true, is how I felt as a
Oh,
kid.
I
But I think OnlyFans, I mean, a lot of girls are not guided properly.
mhm.
And for some reason they believe in their heart that it's easy money, who cares? Like, sex sells, like, I mean, I had that mentality, I made decisions where it was just like whatever. Like I was never taught self-respect in that way. I had to learn it from my own mistakes of,
Yeah.
having a baby at 15 years old, and then that continued with other things, right? And judgments and whatnot. And I just think with um young girls, we talked earlier about fatherless homes. A lot of times if fathers are in the home, there's not a lot of fathers leading from the right spaces. So
Sure.
you might have, situations where there is abuse, and they're seeing examples from men where maybe they've seen infidelity as like a normal thing, or they've seen, you know, well, my dad is degrading women, and my dad is, making these jokes all the time about, like, so what does that put into the minds of these young girls? They think that, oh, that's normal. But yeah, I think it does start by a lack of guidance, but we also live in a world where it's expensive to live. So
Yeah.
if they see easy money, then why not?
And
Uh, Unfortunately, they're going to regret it one day.
well, so I watched a video on my live stream, Oscar Unfiltered on Twitch. Don't forget to go check it out. That being said, Amala Ekpunobi, so she does react videos on YouTube, and she did one on, I can't remember her name. There's a girl that just turned 18. Apparently, she has been all over the internet, really kind of acting pretty nasty. And what I mean is calling people names and doing dumb shit online. And so when she turned 18, she had told everyone she's going to do this OnlyFans shoot. And I think it was in the first 3 hours, she made over $1 million. And so Amala says, well, maybe you should try college, or maybe you should, try finding a career that's more fulfilling. And she said that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how could you, like, I just don't even know how it would be possible to convince someone that just made $1 million
Off of,
to go to college and work
yeah.
a 9 to 5. And so I agree with you. I think at some point they'll realize that that wasn't the right mistake. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you could ever convince someone differently that actually, now it's different if they go and do it and then they have a bad experience, or maybe they don't make money. Maybe they're not successful and they pivot and they do something else. But in the moment, like that girl who made over $1 million in, like I said, 3 hours, you'll never, she'll be on there until she stops making money, I'm sure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Money. So like, I was raised super poor. I never had money growing up ever.
Yeah.
And so for me, money is like, of course, it would be nice to not be stressed about money ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know what money can bring. It can bring so much nasty into your life. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and some people just, they're not led that way. They're not taught that way. A lot of people are taught that materialistic stuff is love, and that's the greatest thing to have, and it creates happiness, and it just doesn't. So
Yeah.
some people may never regret it. Some people may think, okay, this is the way I want to live my life, and
Yeah.
that's people,
Is
but I just, for me, I mean, I'm so glad that there wasn't all that crap growing up for my generation, because
sure.
it's a scary time for people to be so young and have the ability to, put stuff out there, and then it's forever on the internet. Like, it's scary.
And unfortunately, when you're young, it's
You
hard to grasp
make
that concept.
decisions, yeah, that you can, look back and be like, oh, that was not a good decision. And a lot of times now it's on camera for the world to see, and you can't erase it.
Sure.
So it can affect your career, your future as a whole. Again, I happen to be a pretty open book, so if somebody wants to ask some questions about things, I'll usually answer, and depending on the setting that we're in. I think being honest is wisdom, sharing it with people, but obviously there's things that I don't want to share with the whole world.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Privacy is great. But yeah, it's crazy. OnlyFans is, I don't know, there's girls on social media that I've seen, and they're very judgmental and about talking about how men respect them, and then they're very like they take pictures of just like here to here and and it's like you're sending like very different messages.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But this is what kids grow up seeing all the time now, so it makes sense that they're gonna go on OnlyFans and want to make big money as quick as possible. You
Yeah,
know?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like when YouTube came out and all the kids wanted to be a YouTuber and the
Yeah.
streaming services
Well, look
came
at
out.
TikTok. TikTok.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be TikTok famous now. You have people breaking themselves, emotionally and mentally trying to make money on TikTok. And it's like, dude, just be yourself. And
Yeah.
what's meant to be will be. I mean, but one day technology's going to really hurt everybody more than it's going to help them, I'm sure.
Well, in TikTok, man, I don't know. So I have a TikTok, when it comes to all this, and I post on there. Uh, it's, in my opinion, I mean, it's a total scam. I mean, you can tell that TikTok was not created in the same way that, different other social media platforms were created. Just by the way that they handle content and how they can block things and restrict access. Case in point. So, Charlie Kirk, he was assassinated. And so I went on there and I started posting some stuff for Charlie Kirk. And then I found it fascinating that a lot of people decided they were leaving the left. And so they decided I won't say they wanted to become Republicans. They just didn't want to be affiliated with this group that
Yeah.
was kind of celebrating his assassination.
Mhm.
And so I posted a little bit on that. But anyway, so I had two side by side posts. One of them, where this came from, Jimmy Kimmel. You know what I mean? That was the next order of events. So I posted something on there about Jimmy Kimmel. Uh, and I told him to eat shit. Okay, that's, you can agree with it, don't agree with it. That's what I put on there. So that was one. And then the other one was a post about something random. Anyway, so the random post had like 7 likes. It had 1 share. It didn't have anything. It got almost 600 views. The post about Jimmy Kimmel had like, I want to say it was 80 likes. It had 20 shares. It had all of this and had less views than the first one. And I said, okay, well, obviously TikTok is hindering this content from getting out. You know what I'm saying? And that's alarming to me, especially considering in that particular topic, everyone, out there that liked Jimmy Kimmel, they were pissed, because you should have freedom of speech and freedom of what you want to say. And yet social
Somebody
media
just got killed for freedom of speech.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of crazy. And I do kind of point that finger at TikTok a little bit because they do some stuff on there that I don't think. And people take the bait all the time. They go out there and they dance and in front of the camera and they're doing the next trend. And it's like, dude, if you can't make good content, you know what I mean? Why are you just putting trash out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
TikTok is a lot of random trash content, though.
Totally.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. There's this guy on there that I think is kind of funny. He's called the Trend Guy, I think. And all he does is he goes, hey, there's this new trend. This is how you do it. Bam, bam, bam. All right, have a good one. In 1 month, he got over 100,000 subscriber or followers.
Wow.
And then you go on someone else that's actually making really cool videos, going out and traveling, and they've got like 200 or 300. And it's like, dude, come on.
It just proves that trash TV, like that kind of stuff, it's like that's why it does so good.
Yeah.
People want to see they want to see the trashy like reality crap. It's crazy.
It's the way the world is.
It is. It's how it's run.
Well, I tell you what, so I have held you hostage now for 2 hours. We'll go ahead. We've covered a lot of ground. We'll put a pin in it there. Did you want to say anything about your businesses in case any of our viewers want to come and to your salon and get any work done, how they can find you?
Yeah. I have my own personal clientele under Beauty Designs by Abs.
Okay.
I do men, women, children, gray transitions. And then I also have Abby's Road. It's a community that I'm building and it's salon or business suites where really any business can come in and rent space. We all just help each other, feed each other. I love helping people grow their business. It's more of a family type of environment. We all support each other. And so if you need space, come and talk to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. And when is your competition for the state? So you're going after...
Well, actually, this next competition is October 25th, and I'm trying to hit some state records. So
Nice.
yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, big numbers, but we'll see.
Well, I'll keep you in my thoughts, man. I'm sending my positive energy your way.
Thank you.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you for coming on today,
Yeah.
Abby. Viewers and listeners, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to have Abby on again at a later time if she decides she'd like to come back.
Absolutely.
That being said, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Bye, guys.